Nobody becomes a hero by trying to be one. They just do the right thing when nobody's watching, and sometimes somebody is. Maya Patel was an intern, 11 weeks in, the kind of person who arrived early, stayed late, and still somehow managed to be completely invisible. She didn't push herself into conversations. She didn't try to impress anyone. She just did her work, kept her head down, and went home. Her ID badge had a typo on it. Mia instead of Maya, and she hadn't corrected anyone. That's how invisible she was. She didn't want to bother anyone over something as small as her own name. She was covering the front desk on a Tuesday morning. The actual receptionist had called in sick. Maya had a stack of visitor badges to print, a phone ringing every 4 minutes, and a coffee that had gone completely cold. Normal day, nothing special. And then a woman walked through the front doors and everything changed. The woman was in her late 40s, professional, confident. She rolled a small suitcase behind her and walked straight to the desk. She started to speak, but no sound came out. Her hands moved instead. She was deaf, and she was signing her introduction, her name, her appointment time, the name of the person she was meeting. Now here's the thing. Most people in that office would have panicked. They would have smiled awkwardly, maybe pointed at a sign-in sheet, maybe picked up a phone and passed the problem to someone else. That's what usually happened. Maya had seen it before. Deaf visitors being shuffled around, made to wait longer than everyone else, treated like a problem that needed to be handled, rather than a person who deserved a real conversation. But Maya didn't panic. She didn't pick up the phone. She looked at the woman, and her hands moved back. "Welcome, Miss Chen. I'm Maya. We've been expecting you. Mr. Hargrove's assistant will be right down." The woman stopped. She stared at Maya for a moment. Not with shock, exactly. More like the quiet recognition of someone who had just unexpectedly been seen, really seen. After probably a lifetime of being treated like a communication problem, a young intern at a random financial firm had just spoken to her in her own language. Without hesitation, without making it a big deal, Margaret Chen's face completely relaxed. She signed back. "You signed beautifully. Did you learn for work?" And Maya, still slightly pink in the cheeks, signed back honestly. "No. My younger brother is deaf. I learned growing up." Margaret smiled. Not a polite smile. A real one. "He's lucky to have you." That was the whole interaction. 60 seconds, maybe 90. Maya went back to printing visitor badges. Margaret took a seat in the waiting area, visibly at ease. The lobby was quiet again, except for one thing. Someone had been watching the whole time. James Hargrove had come downstairs 2 minutes early for his 10:30 meeting. He always took the stairs, a habit from his 30s he'd never dropped. He had paused at the bottom when he saw what was happening at the front desk. He watched Maya's hands move. He watched Margaret's face change. He stood completely still and let the whole thing unfold in front of him, this quiet, graceful, completely unrehearsed moment between two strangers. James Hargrove had been in business for 30 years. He had negotiated with hedge fund managers, hired hundreds of people, sat across from some of the sharpest minds in finance. He knew what talent looked like. But he also knew something harder to find than talent. He knew what character looked like, and he was looking right at it. He waited until Margaret had settled into her seat before he walked over to the front desk. Maya looked up and immediately recognized him from the company website. Her stomach dropped straight to the floor. She was sure she had done something wrong. "No," he said before she could even open her mouth. "You did everything right." He looked at her badge, then almost to himself. "Why does your badge say Mia?" She blinked. "There was a typo. I didn't want to bother anyone." He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "How long have you been here?" 11 weeks. "Come see me after your shift." 3 o'clock. "My office." He walked away before she could respond. Maya spent the rest of that day absolutely convinced she was getting fired. She ran through every possible explanation. Maybe she had overstepped. Maybe there was a policy about interns covering the front desk unsupervised. Maybe Margaret Chen wasn't a client at all, but some kind of auditor, and Maya had accidentally broken 15 compliance, rules she hadn't even known existed. By the time 3 o'clock came, she had a full exit speech prepared in her head. She didn't need it. James Hargrove's office was on the 14th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows, city spread out below like a map. He was finishing a phone call when she arrived, but waved her in, immediately and wrapped up in under a minute. He slid a folder across the desk before she had even fully sat down. "I looked at your file," he said. "Finance degree from Rutgers, top of your class. You applied for a full-time analyst position 8 months ago." Maya felt something tighten in her chest. "I didn't get it." "You got a form rejection." "Do you know why?" She shook her head. "Because no human ever saw your application. Our screening software filtered it out before it reached a single person. You were missing one certification, listed as preferred, not required. The system didn't know the difference." He paused. "I've been meaning to fix that process for months." Maya didn't say anything. The woman you helped this morning, Margaret Chen, she runs an accessibility consulting firm. She's been working with this company for 2 years. He leaned back slightly. In 2 years, not one person in this building has ever communicated with her directly. She's always needed to bring an interpreter. Every single meeting. He looked at Maya. She called my personal cell phone at noon today. She wanted me to know what happened at the front desk. The room felt very quiet. I'd like to offer you a full-time position. Analyst level. Full salary and benefits. He tapped the folder. It's all in there. Take your time. Maya looked at the folder. Then she looked at him. Is this because I know sign language? She asked. He shook his head slowly. It's because when you had a choice between the easy thing and the right thing, you didn't even think about it. That's not a skill I can teach. That's not something that shows up on a resume. Either someone has it or they don't. She picked up the folder. Her hands were completely steady. That night, she video called her brother Rohan. He was 23 years old, and he had taught her her very first sign when she was 7. The sign for family. She told him everything, start to finish. When she finished, there was a pause on the screen. Then he grinned, so wide she could see every single tooth, and signed back to her. I always told you, you never needed to be louder. You just needed the right room. Here's the thing this story keeps making me think about. Maya wasn't trying to be impressive that morning. She wasn't performing for anyone. She wasn't thinking about her career, or her reputation, or whether the right person might be watching. She just saw a person who needed to be understood. And she understood her. That's it. That was the whole thing. And yet that one moment, that 60-second interaction that Maya probably forgot about by lunchtime, ended up completely rewriting her future. There's a version of that morning where she passes the problem to someone else, where she smiles apologetically and makes Margaret wait, where James Hargrove comes downstairs, sees nothing, goes upstairs, and Maya finishes her internship in 3 weeks and goes home with a generic reference letter. That version exists. It happens all the time. But Maya was Maya, and she did what Maya does. The quiet ones are always underestimated. They don't announce themselves. They don't fight for the spotlight. They just keep showing up, keep doing things the right way, and keep being exactly who they are, even when the room isn't paying attention. And one day, the room notices. You never know who's watching. More importantly, you never know what one small, genuine, human moment can set in motion. Do what's right, even when nobody seems to care, even when it costs you nothing but a few seconds of kindness. Because sometimes that's all it takes to change everything.